Now his
このノ
copy
ートの所有権を放棄す
of this notebook.
る。頼んだぞ。ミサのこと。
Look at this. This is quite exciting, to be honest. Now his copy had English on it, right? It said Death Note in English. So this is Misa's copy. Oh, right.
ストーカーさん
Right, it kicked him right away.
どこにいるの？
Stalker son.
この遊び。
急に態度が一変した。
Right, instantly.
やはりリュウクのデスノートを持っていればレムのノートを捨てても、僕の記憶からレムが消えるわけではない。
Whoa.
俺の渡したノートの最後は土の中に捨てられるとはな。
いいか
Hmm.
リュウク、まだ土の中に隠してあるのであって捨てるのは次に僕が捨てるという言葉を口にした時だ。その時は文脈に関わらずその言葉をノートを捨てるという意味で口にする。
わかった。
Get rid of it.
ストーカーさん、
So
これ犯罪だからやめなさい。ストーカーさん。
she's so polite.
増田さん、茂木さんに電話。
Mogi. That was the guy who was tailing Light, right?
はい。第二のキラ容疑でと言いましたよね。
はい、言われた通り。後ろから目と口を押さえ、第二のキラ容疑で連行すると。彼
Whoa.
女には聞こえるように。
君は今なぜそこに縛られている？
なぜってミサがアイドルだから？でもここまでしてくれたストーカーさんはあなたが初めてだよ。ミサのおしっこしてるところ見られるよ。楽しくない？この変態。
私が変態。
Hentai.
八神ライトを知っているか？なぜ彼に近づいた？
自分の彼知らないわけないでしょ。
Okay.
あれだけ黙秘していたのに、今度はあっさり彼しか。
どうなってるんだ？
ライト君からです。
Yagami-kun.
はい。
Light.
K の2801号室です。
He's got something up his sleeve.
ここへ来るのか。
僕がキラかもしれない。
バカな。何を言ってるんだ、ライト。
Hmm.
どうしたと言うんだ。ああ。
八神ライトがキラだという証拠もないが、ここで僕がキラかもしれない。演技だ。お前はキラかもではなくキラだ。一体何をしようとしている？
FBI 捜査官レイ・ペンバーが日本に来てから死ぬまでに調べていたもの、5月22日に青山に行ったもの、
Right?
そして第二のキラ容疑のミサが関東に出てきて真っ先に口説いた人間、全て僕だ。僕に自覚がないだけで僕がキラなのか。
Ah, he's taking that angle.
ライト。
なるほど。自覚がない。キラではないではなく、カメラはつけていてもキラとしてのボロは出さないと判断しました。
I remember that.
キラとしてのボロは出さない。正直に言うが、僕はある程度の重犯罪者は死んだ方がいいとも思っている。こういう考えを持っている人間なら誰でもキラになりうると思うんだ。
ライト君、それは僕だって同じだ。こんなやつ死んだ方がいいと思うことなんてしょっちゅうある。
Right? He
で
approached.
もだからって本当に人を殺したりしない。そうだろ？
こうなることを予想していたのか、八神ライト。
He's got a plan.
しかし、アマネのようにこれから長期にわたり拘束したとして、今後世に出る犯罪者が死んでいったら、八神ライトはキラではないか。
Oh.
それを狙っているのか。八神ライトの手足を縛り、
Hmm. They brought this up a few episodes ago.
何を。
Outside of that hospital, right?
監禁？
その代わり、やるなら今からだ。
龍崎が僕がキラだとわかるか。キラじゃないと納得するまで僕が何を言おうとどんな状態になろうと絶対
Oh,
自由にしない
right.
でくれ。
So,
わかりました。
so is he also planning on losing his memory of?
大体なぜ息子が牢なんかに。
しつこいよ父さん。そうしないと僕自身が納得できないんだ。
Now, they've already shown us
お願
Misa's
いします。
はい。
demeanor the moment the Death Note was out of her life, right? Instant change. So they've already shown us. Oh, great shot. Okay. Whoa. That's new, and that could. Oh, look at this.
あとノートを捨てるだけだ。
Aha!
龍崎、私をこの捜査本部から
Whoa.
外してくれ。
Yeah, this must be tough for him.
今キラとして疑われ監禁されているのは私の息子。私はここにいる資格はない。監禁するか否か、さっき話していたところ、私は一人市場で息子を監禁させまいとしていた。
そうでしたね。市場を挟むなんてダメですね。
もし息子がキラだということにでもなったら、私はどんな行動を取るか。
Yeah.
はい。八神さんなら息子さんを殺し自分も死ぬなどと考えなくもなさそうです。
私も監禁してくれないか。今は冷静だが、息子への思いでいつ何をするか。
Right.
そういう
Fair enough.
可能性があると思い、渡りに準備はさせていますが。
As expected of L.
またすごいことになってきたな。
僕はもう
Now the same's gonna happen with Light, and that's just gonna be.
実際はピタリと止まった。八神ライトは自分から監禁を望んだように見えたが、これでは八神ライトはキラだったということになる。こうなると問題は、
Whoa.
キラの自覚があったかなかったか。
Look at this.
自
Great
分が
shot.
キラであったとしても、自覚がなかったと押し通しさえすれば済むと考えているのか。八神ライトらしくない。いや、キラらしくない。
Now, whoa, day 5. Now, Rem. Surely she's not completely out of the picture, right? She wants Misa to be saved.
こういう時は本人より親の方が辛いんじゃないかな。
これでもほとんどライト君がキラだったってことは決まりだから。
No, I'm sure there's something else to this
八神
plan.
さん、
どうした？いい知らせか？悪い知らせか？
Take it easy, man.
あま
You
り
had that
思
heart
い
attack
詰めないよ
earlier.
うにと。八神さんがそこで深刻に考え込んでいても、
今の私にはここが一番落ち着く。どんな結果になろうと、ここから
Whoa.
出るときは息子と一緒だ。
わかりました。
Get rid of it?
ああ、自分でも格好のいい状態とはとても思えないが、そんなくだらないプライドは捨てる。
You told him.
はいよ。じゃあな。
See you later. It was that quick, huh?
なんで僕はこんなことをしているんだ。龍崎、
But didn't.
確かに僕は監禁されることを承諾し、こうすることを選んだ。し
Okay.
かし今はっきりと気づいた。こんなことをしていても無駄だ。なぜなら僕はキラじゃない。早くここから出してくれ。
ダメです。キラかキラでないか判断できるまで、ライト君が何を言おうと出さない約束です。
キラとしての自覚がない僕はキラじゃない。
私もキラが自分をキラだと自覚してないなどとは考えていません。しかしライト君がキラだとしたら全ての辻褄は合います。
いいか龍崎、よく聞いてくれ。僕は絶対に嘘など言っていない。僕はキラじゃない。こうしていることもはめられたとしか思えない。
どうしたんだ八神ライト。
Ooh.
言っていることがめちゃくちゃだ。しかしなぜか真に迫る感じだ。
15.
どうなってるんですか？昨日1日で2週間以上裁かれていなかった犯罪者が一気に。
ああ、キラ復活だ。
局長には伝えたんですか？
いや、まだ。
局長、キラが動き出しました。
何？
キラは休んでいただけです。また犯罪者への裁きが始まりました。
本当か、マスター。じゃあ息子は殺人が起きて喜んではならぬが、
Right, but
これで息子の疑いは
so
龍崎のことだ。白とは言うまい。
灰色で。
聞こえましたか、局長？
he's in the gray.
ああ、ほとんど黒だったんだ。よかった。
じゃあライト君には。
松田。
いや松田さんやめてください。
松田、
ライト君には教えないでください。
どうして？
もう2週間以上新たな犯罪者が裁かれていません。いい加減キラであることを自白してもらえませんか？
Now, Light probably
バカ言うな龍崎。お前は間違っている。今までの捜査状況から 僕をキラだと推理するのはわかるが、これは罠だ。ズームにでも何でもして僕の目を見てくれ。これが嘘をついている人間の目か。
本当にキラが誰なのか知らないんだな。
あ、またそれミサが知りたいよ。キラはミサの親を殺した強盗を裁いてくれた
Okay.
正義の味
She
方だ
remembers
よ。
that.
何が何だか分からない。
Oh, look at that. Whoa, so look at that. Yagami-kun is on the offensive, and, you know, it appears that he might be able to pull off a bit of a masterstroke, to be honest. This is just fascinating. This is quite exciting, actually. This, you know, clearly he's put an elaborate plan of action into motion, an elaborate scheme, perhaps. And he certainly put it into motion, right? Or he's in the process of implementing this elaborate scheme or plan of his. And everything, you know, everything does feel like it's by design, right? It's like stages almost. And, you know, it's causing quite the confusion. It's causing a bit of a head-scratching moment for L. Yeah, and you can see how, you know, because it is quite confusing, isn't it? His plan. Now, I feel like I have a decent understanding of his plan of action here. I mean, there's still a few unknowns that are just impossible to know until the story itself kind of gives it to me, to the audience. But I feel like I have some of the basics of it down. Now, before I get into that potential rabbit hole, you know, I had this thought right at the end of the episode that there is a unique opportunity here, right? And I say that because, you know, based on how this played out and based on how this could play out, or the trajectory it's kind of heading into or towards, it appears that he might be able to, you know, get Misa out of there, and himself out of there at some point. You know, at this rate, Al might have to let him go at some point. So there is an interesting opportunity here, an exciting one actually, that perhaps for a time, this version of Light Yagami might be able to be on that task force, right? So that introduces a brand new dynamic almost, right? Because again, you know, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I have to get into some of the other things to get to this point. But say, you know, that potential of them getting out and getting out of this situation, you know, like getting out of this, and then Misa getting out of this potentially. Yeah, he's gonna be part of the task force, right? If L does let him out. So yeah, again, this light is legitimately not under the influence of the Death Note anymore, for a time at least. Again, I'll get into my thoughts because like I said in my last episode's discussion, I firmly believe that there's no chance in hell that he would just give up the Death Note, right? You know, I'm quite confident that he has a recovery plan in place, right? Though that's a fascinating bit because at this moment in time, he legitimately doesn't have any memory of that aspect of it, of the Death Note and Shinigami and all of that. But I feel like, you know, that's the stuff the story hasn't given me yet. You know, the all the info about, or the whole planning of how he plans on at some point recovering the Death Note. Now, you know, that raises the question, do the memories also come back once you do get a Death Note back, or that, you know, specific copy of a Death Note back, right? Now, you know, I feel like this is quite a grand plan of action, quite a grand scheme, and quite a risky one. You know, it's high risk, high reward, that's for sure. So I feel like, again, it feels like a lot of these things might have happened off screen and they haven't shown us yet, right? And they might fill in the holes down the line, but I feel like he you know, given how careful he is and given how, you know, immense this Death Note is, or having this Death Note is, you know, I'm sure he made sure to get all the possibilities out of Rem and Ryuk. You know, really do his due diligence before putting this plan of action into motion, right? Or trying to implement it. So that's the question, right? I think it probably is possible to get your memory back. Otherwise, you know, I don't think he would give up something like that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and assume that it probably is possible for him to get all his memories back once he does recover the copy. And I firmly believe he has some sort of plan to, recover the copy. Now, in terms of the copies, let's, get that straightened out. He gave up Misa's copy, right? In the beginning. So he relinquished that copy, and he had to relinquish it because once Misa gave it up, since it was in Light's possession, it becomes his copy, right? So he had two copies, and in the beginning of the episode, he gives one up, and Rem kind of flies off. And Rem, the thing to note here is that Rem said, take care of Misa. And I firmly believe Rem is still part of this. I mean, the whole point of this is that she wants to see Misa saved from this situation, right? So she's not going to just go off and fly out of the situation, right? And done and dusted. No chance. She's still part of this. In that sense, that's a unique aspect of this, that he might have two Shinigami actually part of this, right? This whole grand plan of his. So, and Ryuk is certainly helping out as well. Even though he stated in the past that he's not here to help him out or do any of that. But, in this case, and in past cases, in a few unique situations, he has helped out Light. So it appears that he's kind of listening to Light, or his plans of action in this moment as well, right? He told him, the moment I say get rid of it, you do it. No questions asked, right? And he said that once he was in captivity, right? And Ryuk got rid of it. And, as depicted earlier on through Misa, it kicked in instantly. And you see the physical change. I think that was so, the change there from the Light Yagami I've known for most of the series at this point, the Kira Light Yagami I've known for most of this point, you see that almost physical change. And I thought you have to give credit, and I think you have to give credit to the animators or the people who draw this, or the directing, or specifying that there has to be this change, and you see that change, right? And in that sense, it's a unique chance to actually see Light Yagami without the influence of the Death Note, because going back to episode 1, I barely got to see Light Yagami without the influence of the Death Note, right? By the end of that episode, he was certainly consumed by it, and he was certainly on that path, Kara's path by the end of it. So this is unique, and you get to see that, his eyes go from focused, laser focused and almost squinty, to just, big open eyes all of a sudden, just like deer in headlights. Just, facial expression changes, everything changed in that moment. And you see that, this is Light Yagami without the influence of the Death Note. Now, I say that, actually, no, before that, go back and have a look at Misa's demeanor and disposition the moment the effects of the Death Note are gone, right? Or the influence of the Death Note is gone from her life and her memory. You see that she is quite innocent herself. And, you instantly notice that. Same thing kind of happens here, almost like a lost teen in that sense, a confused teen in Light Yagami in that, jail cell. But again, that being said, I still believe he had elements of a sociopath within his personality to begin with. But again, you can see that the Death Note did have quite an influence on him. But yeah, I think they did a great job of depicting that change the moment the influence of the Death Note and all memory of the Death Note has disappeared, right? Even his manner of speaking kind of changed, didn't it? It became more gentle, almost. Even though he was quite panicked being in that situation, you could see there's quite a difference in Light Yagami. Now, the reason I believe Rem is clearly part of this, and, again, her whole goal is to get Misa out of here, and she told Light, I'll kill you if you don't save her. So she's still part of this. But for now, she has to be somewhere else, right? And she told Light, take care of Misa. Now, the reason she has to be somewhere else is, I think, attached to this final, major thing that kind of happened near the conclusion of the episode. The fact that these killings started up again, right? The Kira killings started up again. Now, I think that kind of made it clear that the Death Note is in play again. And again, going back to Rem, I feel like this is her part in this grand scheme of Lights, right? And, as far as Rem knows, this plan of action is to get Misa freed. So I believe she is listening to Light, most likely in this case. Now, I say this is her part of the plan because I feel like she has now perhaps presented that death note to someone else, to some other individual, and now they have started doing this, or putting the death note to use, right? And all of a sudden, after 15 days, I believe, new killings have come to light, right? So I think this is her part of the plan. That look, Misa, Kira number 2, and then the original suspect for Kira, Light, are both in captivity, yet the Kira killings are back in action, right? And in full flow. Now, the reason I say that Rem has given it to someone else, most likely, and that's the reason these Kira killings are, resuming again, is because Rem herself cannot start writing names down, because if she starts doing that, there's a motive, right? There's intent behind those actions, because in writing those names down, she is directly perhaps saving Misa, right? I almost said Mikasa. She's directly saving Misa from a potential execution, right? Or a death sentence, perhaps, right? By writing down the names of these people. So, there's a bit of a conflict there. So now, even though she said she doesn't care if she, ends up dying in order to save Misa, in this case, it's not a guarantee if she does that Light Yagami is going to end up saving Misa. She wants to be around for this. She wants to make sure that Misa is safe and she gets out of the situation. And she told Light Yagami that if you don't save her, I'll kill you. So she's not going to die just yet, right? So that's the reason I think she has now given it to someone else. And I feel like Light has, come up with this plan and given each one of them specific instructions, Ryuk and Rem, about how to, how this plays out, or how this is going to play out, because this is certainly a long game, isn't it? Because, again, that is the other really fascinating aspect of this, right? The recovery plan. How does he even plan on getting the Death Note back, right? How does he? Wow. Yeah, this is quite interesting, quite exciting as well. And then, of course, there's that game-changing moment of Misa's Shinigami Eyes deal. That's gone, right? So is this a potential, okay, let's eliminate that from the story, this almost OP possibility, though even beyond that, it was established that he got Rem to agree. Rem agreed to kill L, right? So the Shinigami Eyes deal, or the Shinigami Eyes possibility, didn't really need to play a part anymore, since Rem already decided that she'll, for Misa, she'll kill L. But again, that's in the past now. This is the new situation at hand now. But yeah, let's see if that's gone for good, or if at some point, if the recovery process plays out. And I certainly feel like, he's not just going to give up the Death Note, even though at this point in time he might not know, or he doesn't know about its existence even. I'm sure he put some things in motion, some plans of action, right? Or he has a plan of action, or had a plan of action before losing his memory of it, right? And, Ryuk even said, see you later, right? So it's one of those things that, they haven't shown the audience, but it feels like they have an elaborate plan put together for this. Now, let's go back to Rem, yes. But, now staying on that aspect of it, Rem handing out the Death Note to someone, there's no guarantee that this person is going to do this, right? I'm sure Rem presented this person with, surely she presented some sort of stipulation, right? To make sure this new person, this new Death Note user perhaps, does, because they do need these Kira killings, right? And they do need to kind of replicate the pattern that Kira and Light Yagami used, right? And they have to seem like Kira killings, and they do. All of a sudden Kira killings are back. So maybe that was a stipulation before she hands it out to this new individual. But even in that sense, like, who is this new individual, right? Can you even trust someone random at this point? But yeah, I feel like in order to give this to someone new and have them go through with this, you have to put out some stipulations, right? And I'm guessing that might be the case here. Now let's move on to L and how he is handling this situation, because first of all, he is at a disadvantage for sure, right? Again, this is the one thing he doesn't know about, the existence of this Death Note and all the rules that are included, or that all the baggage that comes with being a Death Note user, and all the possibilities of having control over something like this. So in that case, he's always at a disadvantage, not knowing the existence, or not knowing about the existence of this aspect of it, right? Even though he doesn't know anything about this supernatural aspect of it, though he has his own suspicions about perhaps something supernatural being part of this, he's done all right. He's done all right, even though he doesn't know about this aspect of it. Now, of course, just like L kind of addressed the situation head on and approached Light Yagami head on in the last episode, right? Light did the same thing. He did the exact same thing. And that being said, right from the beginning, L kind of clocked that this is some sort of new act, right? He wasn't buying it at all. He instantly thought that this is just another angle that Light Yagami is taking. And in that sense, they kind of this reiterates just how much he's sure that Light Yagami is Kira, right? You see that through his internal monologue again. Again, I think that part of it has been clear for a long time now, that he believes that Kira is Light Yagami, but he needs solid evidence on that, right? And he's not going to presume him to be Kira officially until he can prove it. I feel like he's known that Light Yagami is Kira for a long time now. He's a prime suspect. He has been for the longest time for L. But he immediately starts thinking about this new angle that Light Yagami might be taking here, and essentially he starts using all of this undeniable, clear-cut evidence against himself, right? Again, there's a lot of undeniable things that have happened that attach Light Yagami to Kira, right? And he's using this now, and he's using this in an attempt to establish that perhaps he might actually be Kira, but he might not be conscious of it, right? And of course, as expected of L, he doesn't buy this initially. And I say initially because by the end of the episode, he is quite confused, or he is in a state of confusion by the end of it, because the state of Light Yagami by the end of the episode is really confusing to him, because he is able to read him, and the things he's reading in Light Yagami's face or demeanor, or this new demeanor all of a sudden, are contradicting his feelings about him not too long ago. He feels like the person in front of him, this Light Yagami, might be telling the truth, right? So now he's conflicted, he's confused a bit. But circling back, trying to establish that he might not be conscious of being Kira, then the fact that he's in captivity for upwards of 15 days and there's been no killings in that time, that really plays into that, right? A potential, I might be I might be Kira, but I'm not, I might not be entirely conscious about that, right? And I say that it plays into it because, and you can even, apply this to Misa, right? Because she is, they had her for, as the prime suspect for the second Kira. She wasn't just a suspect. She was essentially confirmed. To them, they had more than enough to take her in, right? So this applies to her as well. The fact that she's in here, and then, the prime suspect for the OG Kira is in here. And in that time, no killings have happened, right? In that 15-day span, that plays into it, right? But then, right, the major thing that happened right at the end is that they do begin again, right? Potentially, lending to a potential, okay, so maybe Kira is someone else entirely, and he was using these two as a tool, right? In the crusade, or, their sick sense of justice, right? Because since they've been in here, there's been no killings, but now, after, this 15-day span, they started up again. Perhaps this Kira has moved on because they are not usable anymore, right? Since they are in captivity. I hope that makes sense. It's making sense in my mind, but I hope that makes sense to you as I'm putting it out there. And once again, I like the fact that L showed some concern for Chief Yagami. You know, they've established now that he does care for his, like in general, he just cares for Chief Yagami, right? And I felt like this is even a second, you know, father-son type relationship here in the story. And I love how, you know, he refers to Light as Yagami-kun, and Chief Yagami is Yagami's son. You know, given the fact that they've established that Chief Yagami is this man of honor, right? He's all about the process, you know, the right form of justice and the due diligence. He realizes that, yes, you know, his personal feelings got in there, or he let his personal feelings get in there, you know, and that his objections to restraining Light could have, you know, risked the integrity of the investigation, right? And he asked to be taken out of the task force. And of course, L agreed, you know, there's no room for personal feelings in this. And, you know, he's thankful to Ryuzaki, to L, for all that he's done. And he continues to do, right? So yeah, you know, in this sense, Chief Yagami is the one person you really have to feel bad for, right? So yeah, you know, this is set up nicely. This is fascinating stuff. And I do believe, you know, Light might be pulling off a masterstroke in this one. Let's see how it plays out. He certainly set it into motion, right? He's certainly implementing this elaborate plan of action. And I firmly believe both Shinigami are part of this and are doing their parts in this. And I think one of the most exciting parts of this is the potential recovery plan. Because again, I know I keep saying I firmly believe that Light Yagami totally wouldn't just give up the Death Note, right? Unless he knew for sure that he could somehow recover it and perhaps recover the memories that are, you know, part of it. Now, during the episode, as he's giving up the Death Note to Rem, now I surmise that this is Misa's Death Note, and it did end up being Misa's Death Note, as Light confirmed a bit later on. Now, I just assume that because, you know, anytime they show me Light's Death Note, they show Death Note written on it in English, and this Death Note, or this copy of it, didn't have English on it. It said Death Note, but I believe it was in kanji perhaps. But you know, that was the reason I thought he was giving up Misa's Death Note to begin with, and it turns out, yeah, that was the case. And then I think the fact that he is still able to see Rem is another important part of this to the plan, perhaps, because he made a note of, you know, trying to see if, after giving up that Death Note, Misa's Death Note that is, if he's still going to be able to see Rem. And it appears that since he did have Ryuk's Death Note, he's still able to see Rem. So, you know, being able to see Rem, or being able to be in contact with Rem is part of the plan as well, perhaps. Though at this point in time, you know, he has no recollection of any of that stuff. But again, perhaps that is part of a potential recovery plan. So yeah, again, that's quite exciting. And yeah, you know, at this moment in time, if it keeps playing out like this, L might have to let them out, right? And then, you know, that gets into a potential, you know, new Light Yagami, or the actual Light Yagami, you know, without the influence of the Death Note, being showcased here for a moment in time at least, and being part of the task force. So, you know, that is exciting to me. And I think that's about it. But, you know, one more thing. L confirmed, or he called up Mr. Mogi, and this is the task force member that was tailing Light, right? And I believe that's the same voice actor as Zoro, right? From One Piece. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been, you know, meaning to bring this up since episode 1. I think I heard him the first time in episode 1, and I was like, hold up, that sounds like Zoro. But yeah, let me know if I'm on the right track. You know, I know Zoro's voice, and that sounds just like him. Well, yeah, you know, he called him up and he confirmed, did you let her know the reason she's being detained, right? Or being taken in? And yeah, he said, yeah, she was, you know, they told her that, you know, she's suspected of being Kara, the second Kara, so she's being restrained for that reason. So, you know, that confirms that she knew that, but then all of a sudden she completely forgets about that. She has no idea the reasoning behind this detainment, right? She thinks she's been kidnapped by a stalker. And, you know, in that sense, it's kind of sad that, you know, this doesn't seem like the first time she's had to deal with stalkers in this manner, perhaps. But, you know, they already established that she has dealt with stalkers, right? Quite serious ones, because one of them almost killed her, right? It wasn't until Jealous stepped in that saved her. But yeah, you know, it is kind of sad that she has to deal with this And then, of course, Light Yagami is also not remembering things. So both of them kind of losing their memories, or losing any recollection of the Kira killings. All of a sudden, again, that whole thing kind of plays into a possible, Kira might be another entity and might have been using these two individuals, right, to further his or her cause. So I think that's about it. If I forgot anything, I'll be sure to bring it up in the next episode's discussion. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here, and if you do enjoy the content. All of that helps the channel grow and helps more Death Note fans find this. If you are interested in full length to this episode, or perhaps even early access to the next episode right now, consider checking out the Patreon page. It's just an option for anyone who's interested in more than the scheduled content, and also in doing so, you'll be supporting the channel. And yeah, consider checking out the pinned comment. The pinned comment does have the link to the Patreon page and links to my social media, and if there's an update, or if there needs to be an update, I usually update the pinned comment right at the top of the comment section. Yeah, I think that's about it. That was quite a fascinating episode. Light Yagami is on the offensive, and it's fascinating, this plan of action, this elaborate plan of action he's put into motion now, and I'm quite excited by this. And how it plays out. Right then, thanks for joining me. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to see you again soon. Take it easy.